How it goes, I guess.
Story of our lives. Good afternoon. Welcome to a Friday afternoon Cruise Westminster live stream. Ta-da!
Hello.
With Becky and
Me. My name is Konstantin. If you haven't met me, I am a co-host of Becky, and we do this little thing together, which is a little content about brand which is called Nikon.
That's right. That's for all you newcomers, for all you existing regular viewers of the live stream. Thank you very much for joining us already. Thank you for your likes. Please hit the like button on your way in so that the stream just becomes very, very healthy and happy.
Yeah. Exactly. And what we normally do, we prepare everything and we just go by the script.
When do we ever do that? We never do that. We are going to be talking about street photography today. As you've probably seen if you're a follower of our channel, we've had quite a lot of videos about street photography out recently.
Yeah, we do. We love street photography.
Con loves street photography. We is a is a stretch. Is a stretch.
Is that what you're saying?
I have to say big thank you to Marvel for your contribution to the Coffee Fund very early on. That's the super chats for those that don't know. Thank you very, very much. We always appreciate our caffeine addiction being sponsored. It's very useful. Keeps us bubbly, keeps me smiling. Someone had once posted, why does she smile so much? What's wrong with her? It's unnatural.
Yeah.
And I think it's the caffeine. So that's my secret.
And people say people can't concentrate because Con is joking too much. And I replied a long reply and then I had to delete it because...
said, that's the caffeine.
Yeah, I thought I'm better than this.
You are.
And I'll just ignore them. But I cried for about half an hour in a pillow, you know.
Well, we have to say a big, big thank you to our Coffee Fund contributors, actually.
That's true.
We had an in-person Coffee Fund contributor by way of Peter Ford.
Thank you, Peter.
Very much for coming in. It was lovely to meet you. We also have, if I can get it up for, here we go, for April, we had Ian Woolard.
Please give it up to Ian Woolard.
Woo! We had Keith Bamber.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Keith.
Keith,
yeah, close enough. And thank
People don't say half of the things I'm saying anyway, you know.
And thank you to Neil Watson as well.
Thank you, Neil.
Your Coffee Fund contributions were greatly appreciated. So we've been out and about in recent weeks taking pictures with the
Nikon Z8.
Yeah, no. What? I thought you were going to say something else. With our Z6s, because we do love the Z6 as a camera. Z6, Z6 II, great camera.
Yeah.
We also went out with the Z50 and the ZFC with the 3 new Sigma lenses. We've put 2 of those videos up on our channel already.
That's true. We also like them, but not that much as Z6 and Z7 II.
But they're really good. And we've got our last video of the Sigma Trio coming out next week because we've got a little intermission for some other things in the meantime. Russell said there's no such thing as smiling too much. I quite agree, Russell.
Exactly. I mean, there are a lot of serious channels on YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, so the good thing is this choice for everything.
Exactly. There's something for everyone. If you don't like people smiling and making jokes, then go to some other one more serious, you know.
But we should do a deadpan, you know,
I don't think
show once.
We'd need to edit it. It couldn't be live because it just wouldn't work. That would need some serious editing.
It would be like one of those SNL things where they just go off character.
That's right.
You know.
That's exactly what it would be. Thank you very much to Jean also for your contribution to the Coffee Fund. So about, an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, there was thunder, there was lightning, it was humid. It was like Florida weather and now the sun is shining. So it's also like Florida weather, actually.
Yeah. Except the alligators or crocodiles.
Alligators.
Yeah, you know better. You know better. But we thought, since sun is out, it's a good time for street photography. There's a coronation weekend coming up in UK.
Yes.
So, you know, if you in UK,
bunting up.
Exactly. So it's going to be a nice time to hang out in town. Well, normally Londoners, they hide. They just they try to escape, but everyone else come to London, and it's a great opportunity to take some pictures of people, of streets, of animals, you name it.
Yeah, there's going to be all sorts. There are going to be millions of people here. So as I say, as Con said, Londoners, we will be escaping, I think, for the most part. I will definitely not be in town for the weekend. We have not been invited to the coronation.
No.
Richard asked. We have not. And to be honest, with that many, I mean, I like being in the atmosphere of people, but I actually really don't like crowds.
Yeah, but since we have a street photography challenge, you can challenge yourself, force yourself to get out, point your cameras towards someone's faces without being afraid.
Yeah, because there's going to be loads of cameras around. And any kind of situation like that, like you quite often will take a camera with you when you go to football games, won't you?
I do.
Which is quite good. Is that to kind of just get a cross-section of the vibrant wildlife that there is at the football games?
Well, when I say I'm a wildlife photographer, I'm a street wildlife photographer, you see. Yeah. So I like all the species in the world, as whatever football club colors they wear or scarves, So I like to hang out because it does bring a lot of not caffeinated people, but they still, inebriated people on the streets. Yeah. And that creates all sorts of interesting situations. The good thing about football nowadays, it's not violent. Yeah. So, mostly. So, so in terms of this, it's very peaceful, but it's always nice to hang out and just see, especially like some of you know I'm a Crystal Palace football club supporter, or for some of you in the United States, you call it Richmond FC, I think. And Ted Lasso is not our coach, by the way. So,
I was going to say.
Yeah, his name is Roy Hodgson, and we had Patrick Vieira. But we have this derby, what we call a M25 derby, with Brighton and Hove. Or some people call it, like if in Spain you got Barcelona, Real Madrid, they call it El Clásico, we call it El Gatvico. So so I always like to go to those games because obviously the atmosphere is very interesting. Obviously the fans coming from Brighton as well. It's a very interesting crowd. So so I always enjoy that. And the only way to take pictures is actually to be there. Yeah. Because it's a specific event. So let's say if there's a coronation weekend. Yeah. It's a good place to go to see the schedule of the events, show up there, and see what happens really.
Yeah, and I think that's one definite way to do it. If you don't mind crowds, then going to events like that where it's okay to take a camera. Sam points out most big venues won't let big cameras in. So you need to get accreditation and paid work. But that's gigs primarily.
That's the thing. I mean, if you look at football clubs, generally, I mean, I'm talking about Crystal Palace. I'm taking my camera all the time. Yeah. So, but I have a small camera. I like f100 with a 28mm lens. Yeah. So that was fine. Obviously, if you're gonna bring your 600mm with a Z9, they'll say, well,
it's a bit of a problem, I think.
Yeah, exactly. But if you generally bring a prime lens with a camera like Z6, Z7 are perfect cameras for that because they're small. Yeah. So and put a prime lens on it or something, or even 24-70, they're probably going to be fine. Yeah. So but yeah, like generally, I think a couple of years ago it was a big thing where if you would go somewhere to Wembley or something like this, that was a big thing. People were writing on the photographic forums, etc. But I guess if you said music gigs or something like this, events.
That can be tougher. Yeah. It depends on the size of the venue, but yes, it can be tougher. I have to say a very quick shout out to Adam Cook, who said, popped into the store yesterday, contributed to the coffee fund.
Oh, thank you, Adam.
I didn't get that memo, but thank you so much. I will go and find out who who didn't take the message.
Did you spend my money?
Did you buy coffee with my coffee fund money? No, it's fine.
But it's good. It's great. Thank you very much. I mean, I wasn't here, but next time if you pop in, if I'm around, I'll be happy to say hello. Yeah. By the way, please share with us your street photography tips.
For sure.
And the stories. If you had some interesting story which connects to street photography, do share it with us in the comments.
Yes, we'd like to share the love and the tips. So I definitely will defer to Con when it comes to sort of real advice on street photography. But I have done my fair share of street photography. I've also done my fair share of events and crowds and gigs and stuff like that. So hopefully I can share some insight with you. Sandra Shaw said, hi, Becky and Con from Sandra Shaw in Milton, Ontario, Canada. If I was to collect older Nikon film cameras, which one would you suggest to start with? This is a good question.
That's a good question.
Yeah. I mean, collector's items, you cannot go wrong with collecting the classics like a Nikon F. You just can't go wrong with that. Plain prism Nikon F or really nice condition Photomic, which has the metered head, is a great place to start. But I would say Nikon F is the classic. And then it's kind of up to you whether you want to go all the flagship line, so FF2, F3 as a collection, or if you want to go Nikon F and then get something smaller like the FM series, FM2s, FM3s, etc. So then it's down to your preference, but I think Nikon F is a great place to start for collection purposes primarily, but obviously you can also use those lovely cameras. I have to say a big thank you to Brock Tungsten.
Thank you very much, bro.
Contribution to the Coffee Fund. So Dave Walker says, Z6 with 24-120 is still something of a lump. I favour fast primes for street photography, a 24, a 50 or an 85 for me.
Fantastic choices. I can add 28 f2. Which is a small and light and very inexpensive. And also 26 that just came out, which is a little bit more expensive, but even smaller than the 28.
It's 2.8, isn't it?
2.8, yeah, 26 to 8 and 28, 2.8 f2?
Yeah.
2.8.
2.8, because the 40 is the f2.
Yeah, that's why I get confused, yeah.
He also said the Z105 is great, but too big and conspicuous for street, which I quite agree. We do walk around with some big camera equipment sometimes, and... have you been confronted by people when you've done street photography and they've gone like, "Oi, don't take my picture"?
Yes, actually, in fact, last week before the live stream, I went for lunch. Took my camera with me. Yeah. Took a photograph of that person, and it wasn't that person who I took a photograph of, but person about 3 meters away. He pointed at me and was like, "You should have asked." I know you could have asked, he said, and I said. Smiled and left.
That was it.
You know, you don't want to engage. As simple as that. I would try to flatter, try to diffuse the situation. Yeah. If you shoot on a digital camera, if the person, let's say that you've taken a photograph of, doesn't want a picture, you're welcome to delete it. Again, it's a public place, so technically you can do whatever you like. But I think it's nice to be nice to the people. So if they don't want it, delete it. If it's not on film, we'll say it's on film. But as long as you can diffuse it to the, just let's be humble. That's what I'm saying. Don't be, confronting. I think it's just there's no need, because you ruin your day, you ruin someone else's day. So if you can make it as easy as possible to the other people, that's probably the way to do it.
Yeah, and when we were going around Borough Market, for example, obviously the first time we did that experience, we learned our lesson. We had to not look professional. Like, you really cannot look like a professional. And in fact, Sam said exactly this thing. She said, for street, you need to look like a tourist, not a pro.
Yeah.
And we very much kind of channeled that when we did a second attempt at Borough Market, and it worked much, much better. And we really just pretended to look like we didn't really know what we were doing, which was excellent. So we didn't get out the reflector and the umbrellas.
No. Yeah, I mean, one thing, obviously, let's have what street photography is. Street photography is documenting of your day-to-day life, right? So you can approach it from different angles. And discussing the lenses, we had discussion from 24mm lens. Yeah. Could go even wider if you want to 105 lens. And some people shoot with 200mm lenses, and you can potentially shoot with 600. There's no rules about it. No. So, but you're documenting the life, and in terms of this, it depends on your personal style, what kind of images you like. You can be in your face documenting this kind of the shot that is not set up, or you can take, let's say, shoot with telephoto like 50 or 75, let's say, or something like this, and to record more kind of intimate things, but without being there. It's entirely up to you. But like one thing that I personally haven't tried, maybe I should, but I don't find myself that I can bring myself up to do that, because I do generally shoot with 28mm, which is you have to be very close, because if the person is like, let's say, quite far away, like 3 to 5 meters, it doesn't frame well. Yeah. You almost feel like you need to, use different lens, so you always get quite close to the people. And one thing is that, like these type of photographers do sometimes at night, they use flash as well. And that's something for me personally, I haven't got there yet. Maybe one day I will.
You'll be brave enough.
Yeah, but from psychological point of view, I find it difficult for me to do, but also kind of flashing on another person's face. Like I wouldn't want to be that person who would, would be taking pictures of or something like this.
Exactly. And there's actually a few people, I wish I had their accounts to hand, but usually they just come up on my For You page or whatever. There's one chap who finds really interesting people, usually on the streets of European cities, but sometimes New York. And he just says, hey, would you mind if I take your picture? I'll share the results with you afterwards. And they're always very, very happy. And he always picks interesting people, but he can spend more than, a second taking a picture. He spends tops maybe a minute with this person. Sometimes he'll find someone that's really interestingly dressed, and he'll say, do you have an idea you'd like me to take a picture of? And then they go, oh, well, maybe over here. And they're just normal people, but they're really nicely done.
Yeah, I don't like that personally.
No, I know.
But that's the thing.
Approach.
That's the thing. The street photography can be all sorts of things, and everyone can have different dilemmas. Let's say this style of photography, I find that it's staged. So for me, kind of street photography should be kind of, like natural, in a way. So it shouldn't be posed in a way. But actually, I did took one shot of a guy who was doing a pistol sit-ups, so one-leg sit-ups, just on the Millennium Bridge.
Right.
And he was doing this, and I was with my camera, and he saw me pointing the camera. I was like, is it okay? Because like, yeah, what do you want to show? I was like, no, don't worry, you continue.
Yeah.
You know, and he did it, and I just took a shot of that.
Right.
But like, you know, like those TikTok videos where they take a shot of a girl and then she looks pretty and she's like, oh, this is so nice. You know, it's like, I don't like that person.
I like the more unusual subjects.
Yeah.
I like the guy that does the, can I take a picture of your dog? Like, those are really cool.
Yeah.
Those are very, very cool. He goes and introduces himself to the owner, asks the dog's name, usually has like some kind of a toy or something with him.
Takes their bank details. Yeah.
And just,
what's your national insurance number? Blood type.
And then takes these amazing pictures. Anyway, so there's stuff like that. Rebecca Entwistle, she said the 85 is a good lens to use, got numerous shots. And she said, but street performers usually don't mind. So street performers is another one. If you want something a little bit, if you want to get started with street photography and you don't want to take pictures of people that are just kind of there, or you're a bit afraid of asking permission of the general public for a shot, then street performers, if you just put, you know, if you're happy to give them a quid or a couple of quid to whatever, move or do their poses, they're usually very happy, and it can be really, really interesting. But yes, as Andy said, you do have to pay them. That's very, very important, because obviously that's their livelihood. But it is a great way to kind of, I would say, step out of your comfort zone with street photography, because those people are there. That's their job, is to be there and entertain you. So if you're happy to pay them in exchange for a picture, I think that it's a good way to kind of test the waters for you. So we've had a few questions. First of all, we've had a lot of Coffee Fund contributions, so I need to acknowledge everyone.
Fantastic. And I've started a little poll as well, so you guys are welcome to participate. So I put 4 lenses there. What's your favorite street photography lens? 28, 35, 50, and 85. Obviously, if you would like to shoot wider or longer, you're welcome to just put it in the comments.
Yes. So Studio Rene said coffee and FM2. I think that's lovely.
Thank you.
FM2.
Fantastic setup for street photography if you're looking at Nikon film camera. Exactly. Well, what I normally do when I do my street photography, I do have FM3 with a 40mm on, and I have my little Nikon flask, you know, without the mug. I drink from the cup, but it's a great setup.
It is a good setup. You've got your coffee, you've got your camera. Anyway, a few people did say, you know, do you think it's dangerous to go out and take street photos with big gear? We've, touch wood, never had a problem. I personally would not go out, let's say, after dark or in the evening by myself doing street photography. For many reasons, I wouldn't do that. And that's why I quite like the idea of evening photo walks in big groups. Because I think that way, even though, okay, there's a lot of people and it might not get you the same shots as you'd get if you were alone, it's safer, you're with a crowd of people, you know, that nobody's going to come up to a group of rowdy photographers and try and steal all their gear.
Yeah. I think, you should do your own assessment in terms of risk. Yeah. Like, what's your risk tolerance? And obviously don't go to the, let's say, risky areas, you know. So that's the thing. Obviously, we've seen some documentary projects, let's say, like in Rio, in the slums. But I forgot the name. I'm sure people will tell me what they are. So, you know, going there. And obviously, those are quite highly dangerous areas. You know, obviously, everyone is different. So, again, let's say, as you say, like, you know, if you're female, you may feel a little bit different compared to men, you know. So, like, if you feel it's unsafe, just don't do it. It's very simple.
It's not worth the risk.
Exactly. Absolutely. And obviously, like, street photography, you say, like, maybe Z9 with a, like, let's say, 5,000 pound camera with a 5,000 pound lens, maybe not the best choice for street photography, you know, but...
Z9 and an 85 1.2.
Yeah. But something like, let's say, you know, like Z6 with a 28mm lens or something, it's a very good stuff. First of all, it's small and light, you know, and it's just doesn't say expensive cameras, but again, in different parts of the world, those are different things. So, as I say, assess your own situation in location where you are.
100%. So, thank you to AP Studios, who said coffee is a must, so here's a cup of Joe on me.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you. Jeremy, thank you very much for your contribution to the Coffee Fund as well. Sorry, there's more. Thomas Berner said, please join my birthday party at least with some coffee. So happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very, very much for that as well. And thank you to Ian Knox for your contribution to the Coffee Fund.
Thank you, Ian.
That's great. We've got some fantastic comments here. So I'm going to try and read out as many as possible. if I can find £3,000 for dog pictures. Who was charging £3,000 for dog pictures? Maybe the guy that.
You have to be a very famous photographer to charge £3,000 for dog pictures.
Yeah, you do. I will say someone was asking about 300 mil for street photography. When the 300 f4PF first came out, we were at Nikon School was an actual physical place, and we did a day of training there, and it was brand new. We hadn't even seen demo units yet, so I took the 300 PF with me, and it was like, now you need to go and do some street photography. And I thought, I didn't really think this through, but I managed to get some really interesting. We were in Oxford Circus.
Yes.
So you couldn't do people really. You could do details. You could do some, very distant crossing.
You had to go one block down at least.
Yeah. Exactly, but a very small and light lens for the focal length that you get. Very difficult to do street photography with that. Even with the 50 Voigtlander, you were saying manual focus, you almost like you can't do just random candid shots. You almost have to set the shot up and wait for it to...
Well, especially if you're shooting at very shallow depth of field like f1. I mean, someone asked me on Instagram, so how did you get it? And the easy way to do it is basically what I call focus trap, where you pre-focus to a certain distance, you frame it, and when the subject walks in there, you take the shot. So hyperfocal distance focusing, that's a very common thing. So autofocus, really, you don't really need to have it on your camera if you don't want to. So if you're shooting with a wide angle lens, like 28, you can set it, let's say, like my normal settings I try to do is about 500 of a second and f11. Mm-hmm. That allows you, let's say, if you pre-focus to about 1.5 meters, it gives you roughly focusing distance between 1 meter to about 3.5 or 4 meters. So everything with this area will be sharp. So in that way, you can just, you don't need to focus. So you set it there and you just keep sniping away, So very simple thing to do. And that way, like your depth of field will cover the area. But if you like to do a very shallow depth of field, that becomes a little bit more tricky. And that's where I think you need to kind of preset your focusing distance, maybe wait for the subject, unless you can learn how to focus quickly or use autofocus.
Yes, exactly. In fact, when I think you said to me not that long ago that you were testing out different film stocks at 1600 ISO, like pushing them to 1600. So
I developed them all yesterday.
Did you? So it's exciting.
First time after about 15 years.
Wow. Did it go okay?
Yeah. It's a muscle memory. Yeah. It just all comes back to you.
That's great. That's great. And the purpose of that was so that you have a nice fast film so that you can shoot at f8, so that you can get those street shots where the person just walks into your frame at that set focal distance. I think that's really clever. Yeah,
I mean, know your focal distance. That's the thing. Know your focal distance, know your, let's say, how much depth of field you can allow for certain settings. But I normally shoot 500 at f11, f8, depending on what it is. And in London, unfortunately, that means your ISO is about 1600. Or if it's a nice sunny day, your ISO will be about 800. So, in this case, I always say embrace the high ISOs, embrace the grain, or in digital, it's a digital noise. The good news, if you shoot digitally, even cameras like Z6 and Z7 produce amazing low levels of noise.
Absolutely.
And obviously with those cameras, you can shoot 3200 if you need to, etc. Why 500 of a second? Well, people walk in, that allows you to freeze the subject. Obviously, if someone is running, then you want to increase your shutter speed. But generally, walking people towards you, especially in the crowds, 500 of a second, just kind of make sure that you don't get motion blur.
Yeah. Now, obviously, if you've got an autofocus camera or you're using an autofocus setup, like, for example, Christoph says he takes the ZFC with the 3518S, and his other option is the FE3? I don't know what that is. FE, anyway, with the 50 f1.4. Maybe it's an FM3?
FM3 maybe, yeah. Maybe. Because there's FE2, but not FE3. Yeah.
Or an FE2 with a 50 1.4. So two very different setups. If you're shooting autofocus, obviously, with a certain amount of eye face detection on your cameras, you can get away with an awful... Like, you can actually kind of just point it in the direction and shoot and get some really interesting results. I
think generally, if you're shooting 24, 28, you kind of can get away with it. With 35 as well, to a degree, but then once you start to hit 50, it becomes a little bit more problematic.
That's right. David Liu, I can't find your comment now, but he said that he was shooting with a TLR, doing street photography kind of a la Vivian Maier-esque style. And he said it was too slow for him and he has no idea how she did it. But I'd love to give that a go, I think it'd be really interesting. And it actually goes to show Because people will sometimes look at these older photos and they'll go, oh, well, that's easy now. But actually, if you replicate that with the equipment that photographers were using, even, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, it's not that easy.
Well, like
skill.
When I do street photography, I don't really use autofocus.
No,
like I still shoot manual focus, hyperfocal distance, So, but you've got this technology built in now. Like when we filmed actually with 26, Z6 with 26 2.8 lens, obviously that one doesn't have the distance scale on the lens, so you can't really preset it to a degree. So so with this one we actually used autofocus, and it performed really well. That's the thing. I mean, one of the things that people complain about those folks on the cameras, actually, if it's reasonable enough to take photograph of the person real quick, take your camera up, press the shot and take the shot. For me, it's good enough.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And, 99% of them were in focus. So, that's really good.
It's a really good hit rate, actually. Thank you to David, aka the Drunk Wedding Photographer, for your contribution to a cup of coffee with a shot of whiskey. Is that what you've got? That's why these streams are so jolly.
Exactly.
So Richard said, what is your definition or interpretation of what street photography is? I think it's not necessarily, it can be considered quite a broad term, but essentially anything that's taken out on the street, I would assume.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be people even necessarily.
Well, that's the thing. You have so many approaches, so like, you've got very kind of traditional style photography where, it's more about the lighting and the shadows, rendering, etc. And then you got another one is just based on people. People use very different lenses to take the shots as well. So because it's such a broad subject, it could be a portrait, it could be a cityscape, it could be even a macro in a way. So, but generally, like, I think for me, it's recording people. So that are on the streets.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, but I would also broaden that to, for example, almost like a type of landscape, I suppose. But even those things like late night light trails and stuff, all of that, I would still consider goes under the umbrella of street photography. For cheaper than Z6 II setups, as Ed said, the Z6 II is quite an expensive camera.
Z5.
Yeah, there's a Z5. You've got,
perfect camera for that.
Full frame mirrorless camera. Obviously, it's not like thousands of pounds cheaper than a Z6 or a Z6 II, but secondhand could be quite cheap. In fact, I think in other countries it's a bit cheaper than it is in the UK, but it's $12.79 over here for the Z5. You've also got the smaller bodies like the ZFC, the Z50, even the Z30 if you don't need a viewfinder. Those small cameras are so discreet, and yet I was looking at some of our shots the other day from a video that we were shooting with the Z50, and I was thinking, that's such a capable camera. It's like, if you set it up in a way that you really like, it's a very, very capable little camera, considering that my main camera tends to be my Z6. And as regular viewers of the channel will know, we don't upgrade our cameras every 5 minutes. Like, we've had ours for quite a long time.
Yeah, we have our Z6s for how long now? Maybe 3 years now?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Since 2020, so it would be
just waiting for 10th of March. just waiting.
I am not waiting.
Don't know what's going to happen, but just waiting for 10th of March.
So anyway, let's breeze past that.
Well, no, and then looking at the, if you look at the leaked images of the 10th of March announcement, whatever that is, clearly we don't know. So, but Z6 is actually, for this type of shots, if you want to be discreet, is better. Yeah. Because the other camera is bigger in size. Yeah. So here you go.
Yeah, Andy Haters said, what's the deal these days with pro cameras? I heard that police don't like professional cameras. To be honest, here's the thing. It's like, obviously everyone has a camera in their phone, and I think, there are areas of town which are privately owned. There's pieces of land which are privately owned, which they have security for like
London Borough Market, London Bridge area, all this.
All along that river area.
Canary Wharf is a clear example of that. So
there are areas where if you have a big camera and you kind of look like you know what you're doing, then there are security guards and they will say, no, what is the purpose of your photos, etc. You'll get the sort of the big inquisition on it all, and you can either say, look, I'm just a keen amateur. But I have had a couple of customers who've said, they were shooting out in like Trafalgar Square and stuff, and they got stopped by police, and they asked them to give them their memory card, and they were like, no, you can't make me.
You can't, not by law. I mean, look, if you do this, it may be worth checking your local laws. I mean, so obviously, again, with those things, you don't want to escalate. There's no point, but knowing your rights is also quite important. One of the things actually, one of the things you don't want to do as well is bring your tripod with you. That's another thing.
No.
But also, if you have a nice vintage camera on you, you actually will get a compliment, just like I did. This guy said, you have a nice camera in there. I was like, oh yeah, it's film.
Thanks.
I know each other for about 10 minutes, so
nice.
That's the thing. So it really depends, not all police is bad. So
exactly.
That's the thing. But it's one of the things, just if they feel like they're overstepping or something, it's just politely, say no and leave, So.
Yeah, exactly. No one needs to start a fight. As someone commented earlier on your statement, don't ruin your day and don't ruin anyone else's day.
Exactly.
This is a motto that we should take
that's the thing.
Life every day.
Yeah, don't be a bad person. It's very simple as that, and respect other people. This thing. As I say, I do that type of photography where I want to be close with people, but I don't want to
You don't want to overstep.
You don't want to overstep.
Yeah.
I don't want to it's just try to, and if there is some sort of negative situation, try to diffuse it as much as you can.
Yes, exactly. David made a good tip. He said, I've been shooting street for years. My advice is one camera, one lens. Don't get caught up in swapping the lens on the street.
Exactly.
It's a really, really good piece of advice. In fact, sometimes looking a bit more professional can work in your favor in the nicest way possible. When we were out shooting in the Barbican a few weeks back, we were sort of wandering around, and a chap came up to us, an American chap came up to us and said, oh, would you take my picture? On his phone, actually, not on our professional camera gear, which is fair enough.
And then he walked away for about 300 meters, and I told Becky to run with his latest iPhone.
He's like, I'm going to go over there. And I was like, oh, okay. And he went all the way onto the other side of this balcony. And it turned out, and I could not figure out why, and then I found out why. So the Barbican was used during certain filming scenes on Coruscant in Andor, the Star Wars.
Not only, it's been used in Star Wars.
No, I know, but specifically this was why he was asking. Okay. Because he was a Star Wars fan.
I just started to watch Andor.
It's so good.
Okay, I'm not. It's not clicking with me.
Man, it is so. Anyway, I tell you,
2 episodes in, I still need to. Because everyone really say, oh, it's the best Star Wars TV series. So you got Mandalorian, and I watched this. 2 episodes in, I'm like, that is slow.
It is slow for sure. But are you already a Star Wars fan? Do you like Star Wars? Okay.
I watch Star Wars. I'm not
I'm sorry.
I'm a Star Trek guy. No, I just don't none of it. I like science fiction for science bits. So Star Wars for me is a fantasy.
Okay.
It's as simple as that. Yes. But I do enjoy it like Marvel movies.
Excellent.
Shots fired. I'm sure I'm going to be just cancelled on there.
Anyway, no, there's people that are making. I'm like, don't say anything bad about.
No, I like my science fiction how I like it, and I'm.
That's fine. That's good.
I can argue about that
Anyway, I want to finish my story.
Next live stream. Yeah.
So the fact was.
So he was in the wrong area in the wrong time. Becky ended up with a new iPhone. That's the end of the story. Yeah.
No, so I took his shot, but he was so over the moon that he got his shot taken on the set, but in the same location as it was filmed, and he was very, very happy. And I thought that's nice, because sometimes you go around and you don't necessarily want to give your phone to a random stranger and say, hey, could you take my picture? But if there's someone who's got lots of camera gear and stuff, then you might be inclined to go, oh, this person's not going to steal my phone and will let me walk miles away.
He didn't give it to me. He gave it to Becky, if you noticed that. That's, he made his choice.
It's very true.
He was right.
But yeah, it is. But as David said, he said Andor is the best Star Wars so far.
Oh, good. Well, I'm gonna stick with it.
It's really good, but it's not like pew pew pew, all the things happening. It's like there's a very important story being told.
Good. I'm looking forward to it. I just finished the Mandalorian season 2. Finally.
Okay, good.
So there's still season 3 to watch, but Andor. 2 episodes in, okay. I'm going to stick to it.
Good. And then you have to look at the timeline and try and figure out how it all fits together. It's very
don't
confusing.
worry about that, yeah.
Paul said, talk nice to people and you can do most things with no trouble. So there you go. That's very, very true. John said, I use 3 lenses on my iPhone 14 Pro Max, no problem.
There you go.
Yeah, but you don't have to change those lenses. That's the thing.
And that's the thing. I mean, like you can use all sorts of equipment with it. What you want. Some people shoot with iPhones. You know, let's say I don't find it particular. Let's say for me, like I wouldn't do that. But whatever works for you.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you're the one who's going to enjoy your images.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Exactly. Take pictures for you. George B says, my Z50, black gaffer tape covering the Nikon logo, and the 26 or the 40 mil, 26 pancake or 40 mil muffin, I like how he's adopted our terminology for them, is my street camera. And I think that's a really nice combo because it's actually quite little, and the gaffer tape's a nice touch as well.
Share with us your street photography setups. Like, what is yours, Becky?
So...
on the days where you shoot street, which happens
cameras.
Every now and then.
Yeah, so it tends to be one of my many film cameras.
Yeah.
But like if I want something which has the possibility of changing lenses, then it'll be my FM3A because that I have the most lenses for, and it's pretty light as a little camera. But I've also got a very nice little compact Rolly B35. It's slightly tough. It's not like a point and shoot because you have to...
Is that the one you need to pre-focus kind of thing? Yeah, okay.
So a bit like your hyperfocus distance judgment, you do a similar thing with that. It does have a meter in it though, which is interesting.
You see, I do have, I had till this morning, I think I've lost it, but the Seconical 308 meter.
I hope you haven't lost it.
Yeah, and I normally do, got the reading.
Yeah.
That reading is good for for the same lighting conditions, which is the street generally. But get to the shadows, double check, set it up, then you don't need to worry about anything.
That's right. But if I'm doing digital, then it's usually Z50 or Z6 with the 35-1.8. That's my sort of standard lens on that one. That's my go everywhere lens. I am seriously considering one of the little pancake or muffin lenses though, because I do like the size of them. I just don't think I'd need both. And I like the 1.8, so it's a tough one.
Yeah, I'm still thinking between 26 and 28 because it's a
comparison we need to actually do.
Yeah, we definitely need, because 26 is good. I enjoyed it. It's small, but I just don't, I feel like, but 28 is like half the price, and okay, plastic mount, but on such a small size, it's not like it's going to stress the mount of the lens that much, but I want to see the optical difference between the two, and I think that's why we need to, compare it. Maybe autofocus as well, but I think autofocus is going to be the same on both.
Yeah, I think so too.
But I really enjoyed the 26.
Yeah, you got some great shots from that actually.
Thank you.
I didn't get nearly as good shot. I was really pleased with my shots, and then you sent me yours, and I was like, okay. Never mind. I'll just get rid of mine.
No, everyone is different because we always notice when we shoot different lenses. Sometimes, let's say, I come in with better shots, but, most of the time you come in with better shots. But everyone is different. Like, if you ask me to take macro shots, they're no anywhere like near Becky's level. That's the thing.
Have my forte.
There you go. So it's like street photography is an exercise. It can be worked on. And the more you take the camera out and the more you take the shots, the more keepers you'll get. And as with everything, like a lot of people say, it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
The more you shoot, the better you'll become, and the more keepers you will have. But also, the more you shoot, eventually you'll get the kind of if you shoot 1,000 days, you're gonna have better portfolio if you shot it, let's say, with for 30 days or something.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what it is.
It's honing your skill a little bit, I would say. So Champagne Sumo actually says that his street photography camera is a Fujifilm X-T30 Mark II with a 27 pancake.
It's a good little camera.
Like 42 mil, 39 mil, something like that. So that's interesting.
Well, you tried Voigtland the 40 mil the other day. Like, how do you find it for street? Is it too tight or? 40
is actually okay. I think 50 for me would be too tight, but 40 is okay for street stuff. But I do tend to think like go super wide. So I think 24 and those kind of focal lengths.
15 mil.
Yeah, DX would be 15 mil full frame, no. So way too wide for street photography because everything just looks kind of boring.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You have to really have a purpose for that. So Christoph, right after the stream, is going out on the street with something special with a ZFC, an original Zeiss Biotar 58F2, and the Praktica with a Helios 40. I don't know what that
Soviet
is. Yeah, but
lens,
it's cool. That's very, very
with
cool.
a very kind of this swirly bokeh. Yeah, it's all the rage nowadays. Like cinematographers have been using them for years, and it seems like in the last 2-3 years, it's kind of a lot of people were adapting them to modern mounts, effectively.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I think it's a screw-on mount or something like this, or Zeiss mount. I mean, they have different mounts for that particular lens. Yeah.
That's right. So David says, my setup is the F6 plus Voigtlander 58 or the DF with the Voigtlander 58.
Nice.
I'll be using the 2418G for my next Oaxaca trip, which is cool. That's very, very cool. There's a real mix now. So
and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's the good thing, because everyone is different and everyone sees street photography a different thing.
Yeah. So like Rubaid said it was the D7200 with 50, which would have been like a 75mm equivalent. Now it's a Z7 II with 50, which kind of, not only have you like increased the resolution of the pictures that you're getting, but you've also gone slightly wider, which is really interesting. So I think that 50 as a kind of street photography setup, I suppose, could kind of work for a number of things.
Yeah, it gives you distance. It gives you that extra distance. And, let's say if you want to get in street photography, but you're not comfortable to be really close to people, start with a longer focal distance.
Yeah.
And if you feel more comfortable, or you like, let's say, a slightly wider angle shots, then upgrade. I mean, from 50, go to 35.
Yeah.
See if you like it, etc., etc. So, but 50 is fantastic choice for street photography. And if you look at our polls, well, we got 50 on a comfortable second place as a top choice for street photography. 35 has been the first choice, 28 the third place, and then 85 at 13% on the fourth place.
Oh, there you go. So 35 tends to be a general agreement. We didn't put 40mm in there.
Well, no, they're too close, and that's the thing. And as I said, if you do use other focal distances, just put them in the comments below. Yeah.
So a higher angler said, I have a 50-1.8 and haven't been able to talk myself into the 40 f2 either. Pascal said, go for the 28mm. Don't mind the plastic mount. The lens is too small and light that it's not an issue. I actually really like the 28 2.8. I will say, obviously the 26 is great because it's more compact and it's metal, but the 28's a brilliant lens. And
you know what's interesting thing, because we did the review of 28 and 40mm lenses, and even today the video performs really, really well in terms of views.
Yeah.
So there's a reason that people look at those smaller, lighter lenses, not as expensive lenses and things like this. And that may not represent it on, let's say, on the people who are commenting under those videos and things like this. But in terms of numbers, there is a niche for these lenses, and I think that's why it's very important that Nikon produce those.
Yes. Yeah. Then we've got another completely different approach. So Michael says, street photography camera for me is the P7800. Great little camera, very versatile. Yep. Put in pocket. So you've got that other. Also, I think compact cameras don't get the same kind of flack that bigger cameras have, even though because the sensor is smaller, even though they actually are quite good performance, particularly in broad daylight when the lighting is not too challenging, which is fantastic.
Or it could be a 35mm film camera, and they're small and light as well.
Yeah, someone said, I can't remember who it was, someone said 28 Ti is something that they're playing with. Lovely. Yeah. Lovely little cameras, those, for sure. Really, really nice.
Yeah, for me, it was because we reviewed 35, and I did find that it's slower than I need it to be for my type of shooting. But everyone is different, that's the thing. So if you like to kind of observe the scene and then take a shot, then those cameras will do. But if you need to quickly take the camera out and just snap it, then maybe that's not the right camera.
Yeah, exactly. There were a few other mentions of like not using flash in certain situations. You can really freak people out. I would never use flash in a street environment, not unless I'd specifically asked the person I was taking a picture of for permission. Yeah.
Well, no, that's the thing. But there are photographers who do that.
I know.
That's the thing. And that's something that I want to try, but I don't want, but I do find that but you got it off the camera, so you normally have a C28 cable. Mm-hmm. So you take the shot and it's not on the camera.
PAP style.
Yeah, so but I don't know. I think I need to maybe one day. I'm not too comfortable from the point of I don't want to be the person who is being flashed by a photographer like this, unexpectedly. So, so if I'm in that position, I don't think I want to do that as well to other people. Like I said, but everyone is different. I'm not criticizing that. Absolutely not. It's if that's your thing, it's your thing.
Yeah. Exactly. We never criticize anyone else's work or their decisions or whatever they want to do. I think, that's fine.
You know, I think street photography, like, it's got a lot of ethical issues, like what you can photograph, who you can photograph, you know, like the whole thing about the children. You know, before we had this famous shot, forgot the name of photographer, and I'm sorry about it, like, you know, with a gun, kid with a gun, you know, like a toy gun and things like this. Like nowadays you probably won't be able to take a shot like this. And obviously photographing children is another story, you know, photographing people in need as well. So there's a lot of little issues and everyone is different and it's entirely up to you what you decide to do.
Exactly.
That's the thing. There's no right and wrong. It's like everyone has their own code. I think, you know, on a personal level, and you need to decide what's right or wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Sam said she doesn't want to get flashed either. Don't
Not
blame
at night
you.
in the middle of the street, on an empty street.
I do not blame you.
Yeah.
So
I know a couple of stories in London. My friends told me.
Keep this family friendly.
Yeah.
That's for the late night show.
Yeah.
So I will say we do have our street photography challenge. We're going to be wrapping it up in the next couple of weeks. So what's not next Friday, the Friday after?
I think the 25th or something like this. That's what we're aiming at.
About then is what we're going to be doing. So
and please send it to us to media@gracewestminster.co.uk. I will acknowledge all emails, and I apologize if I haven't replied to someone yet, but I think we've got quite a few submissions now, so I think I'm backlogged for about 5 or 6 days. So, but I will try to work through them and say thank you. And they normally go to the challenge folder. And what we normally do on the day before the live stream, we would go there and we would select the best shots. Obviously, if you have, let's say, 150 to 200 submissions, then we won't be able to show all of them. So we need to select the best. And it's normally one photograph per person. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, some people do say, like, look, I've sent you a couple of images. I want you to decide which one you show, which is fine. That's okay. But obviously, if you've got one shot that you really want to share with the group, then just send that one. Makes life much simpler. And as Matt said, include your gear and settings in the email. I will say, because I didn't sort of openly disclose this last time, I will, for some people, if I can, try and contact you, particularly if I've had contact with you before, because I like to kind of showcase those pictures in our email newsletter, which brings me to my next point, which is, a lot of you, I think, don't subscribe to our email newsletter. We usually include the link for it in the description box of our channel, just generally. But if you'd like to receive an email from us about once, maximum twice a week, never more than that, unless we've got some sudden breaking news, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, we send out a sort of weekly or bi-weekly update on all things Nikon and Grays. Do go and sign up for that, because then you will also see people's work when they have submitted to us for previous challenges. So as Andy said, thanks for using my photo in the newsletter. You're very welcome, Andy. It was my absolute pleasure. And thank you to the others who let me use their shots as well. We quite like to sort of, and we did the same for the film photography challenge. We had like a kind of a cross section of a few of the shots.
But you will get in touch with those people. So
I always ask you. It really helps if you've said beforehand what equipment you're using. In fact, if you want to say, I'm okay for you to use this in the newsletter, then it saves even more time, but I'm not going to hold you to it.
And we do like a story behind the photograph as well. So so if you do have one to share, then put it in the same email.
Yeah, exactly.
But short and sweet as well.
Short and sweet, to the point. Particularly if we've got 100 or more pictures to go through. So anyway, do definitely sign up for the newsletter if you haven't.
Becky writes those emails. It's not a chat GPT or whatever, it's Bruno, as you say. What was the other one? The Bard?
Bard. It's Google Bard.
I think they call it the Chad or something like this,
Maybe. Anyway.
So it's actually written by an author and a writer of books.
An actual person. Don't say that.
Do you spend as much research into the newsletters as you do for your books?
I'm really worried now, because I'm sure that I've included
I'm raising the bar.
Typos.
They are not as spicy as Becky's books, but the thing is, I subscribe to all newsletters from all the camera dealers in the world. So, and it's generally, you just open it and you ignore them. And when I see Becky's email, I pour a cup of coffee and I sit down. I cancel all my scheduled meetings and I just read the email, savor it.
That much. But that's
word by word.
Very nice of you. Anyway, so you can absolutely do that. I would really appreciate it. And also it just keeps you in touch with us if you're wondering. I mean, anyone who has ever wondered whether or not, despite being in the far reaches of the earth or not in the UK, if you can order stuff from Grays, you absolutely can. In fact, we have quite a lot of people who buy secondhand equipment from us overseas because you can't get the same quality of secondhand equipment locally, or the things that you want are not available. Anyway, so you can also buy stuff from us as well. Thank you very much to Randall.
Thank you, Randall,
for your contribution to the Coffee Fund. Hugely appreciated. Thank you to everyone who's liked the stream so far. Please, like it if you haven't already. A couple of you said just subscribed. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that as well. Andy said, talking about street photography, will you be shooting in London tomorrow? If yes, then where? No. No. Although I will be... we'll be marshalling at a coronation parade because I do my little bit for the community.
I haven't decided yet. I have a game at 3, but the morning is free, so I might do that.
You have a game at 3 on Coronation Day?
Spurs game.
I'm really surprised that they're doing that on. Anyway, fine, cool.
Well, apparently I think they might sing the anthem or something. At least I've read the news that they asked them to do that.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Sam said, got myself a lovely tote bag and some cheeky stickers, which is excellent. Thank you for that. Sorry, Craig said how and where to submit photos. So send your picture no larger than 10 megabytes, because our inbox won't take it, to media@grazerwestminster.co.uk with a little bit of, I just read that, with a little bit of info of what the shot is about, your settings, and whether or not you are happy to share it in a future newsletter. It will be potentially shown, so don't send anything that you don't want to be shared with the big wide world. Marvel, yes, you will also get emails in addition to the Nikon owner subscriptions emails. Those two databases are not linked, so you don't automatically get Graze emails if you're Nikon owner and vice versa. I also wanted to say, before we kind of slowly wrap up for the day, but on our podcast,
yes,
I said we wanted to win an award.
Yes.
And
we won the award now.
Someone sent us an award that I don't know who sent us to this, and I'd really like to know. But this is...
But we've received an award. It's from an old dog.
It's the Old Dog Awards. That's brilliant. Thank you. And it says the Absolutely accolade awarded to, because it's you. Absolutely.
Absolutely accolade, absolutely. Yeah. It's absolutely on point.
It is. Awarded to Becky, Danese and Konstantin Kochkin of Grazer Westminster for outstanding services to education and entertainment in the photographic world, etc., etc.
Yeah, I would like to thank my family, my relatives all over the world, all the Nikon users, my agent, yes. But thank you. This is nice. So we now officially have an award for our podcast.
We do.
Which is amazing.
Made my day. It was so lovely, actually. It was really nice to receive. So thank you very much. We'll get it framed. It will go up in the Graze gallery as we have here.
If you have more awards to send us.
You can send it over. Yeah. Oh, dear. But yeah, so do take part in the the Street Photography Challenge if you haven't. Toby said we're looking forward to visiting Paris next month and plan on doing some street photography. Any suggestions where the best places are? Well, if there's anyone who's been to Paris, I've only been to Paris once, and we did, and it was a day trip, and we walked all the way from the Louvre all the way down the river to the Eiffel Tower.
You got to Gare du Nord, yeah, so that's the train station.
Gare du Nord, yeah.
Yeah, and then you jumped straight to Louvre.
No, we walked actually. Okay. Yeah, there was a lot of walking.
There's a lot of walking. It's a big city.
It's a big city. So we did an awful long walk there, but I would say a lot of parts of Paris are very pretty. Yeah. So,
and again, make sure maybe when you kind of look at especially in a place you haven't been, just make sure maybe you have some sort of route and you know what you're doing as well. Because again, we talked about the security, and you want to make sure that you don't have a big camera and look like a tourist, I guess,
Yeah. So you want to look like a tourist, but you don't want to look like a tourist.
Exactly.
There's a fine balance.
So don't wander into some sort of empty, dodgy alleyways of,
no.
Like in the area you don't know. So that's the thing.
That's right. John says, I did it in Paris. Got to be careful. They will chase you. So that's really good advice there from John. Just beware. But I think small cameras is generally the advice in Paris. I took my D600 when I went with 24-120. That was not a small camera. I did okay, but I was in a small group, so it was fine. Anyway, so for those of you that are going to be doing some photography this weekend or the next couple of weekends, then you can basically send those over to us before the 25th or thereabouts, and then we'll make our selection.
That's the thing, and obviously we're talking about Coronation weekend, so a lot of people will come to Central London, but it doesn't need to be about big event and about London. You can document the area you live in. That's I think like the reason why I photograph, let's say, the football games and stuff, because it's my local area.
Yeah.
So and I think for me as well, it's going to be important because I will see, even let's say the place I live, like I lived in Brick Lane about 15 years ago when I first came to London, 18 years ago, something like this, and it was a very different area from what it is now.
Yeah.
And the good thing is I have the photographs from that time, and I can say, well, it looked like this, and now it looks very different.
Yeah, so. It's true. I think it's quite a nice way of documenting how things have changed.
Absolutely.
As well. David says you want to look like a tourist at home and look like a local while traveling. It's a really nice actual piece of advice there, because it's true. You want to make sure that, particularly if you're in London and you're a Londoner, you don't want to look like a Londoner because you're going to get stopped by people saying you look too professional. So.
No, I think it's more like it's the attitude. If you look like you know what you're doing, in a way, like you know where you walk in, and things like this. And obviously, if you're in London, any big town, like if the French people say like French people are lovely except the Parisians, and the same probably English people say about Londoners. So because obviously it's a busy area, people tend to just rush, don't look at other people, just kind of
we're just like, horrible.
Exactly, So that's the thing. So if you if you know where you're going and just wander around with your mouth open, not sure what you're doing, it's a different thing. But that's the thing. If you like in your local area, you already will know, let's say, where to photograph, or let's say which area you want to photograph. Maybe the area with you got a little maybe market or something which is buzzing with people, So you will see a lot more different situations happening there. So you will find those little spots where you can maybe stay and take some photos, or maybe have a coffee, and then if you spot something, just quickly take a shot.
Take a picture.
Absolutely.
Wrist straps was another thing that was being recommended. I do agree, actually. My Peak Design wrist strap, once you put that on and it tightens, you can't get that off for love nor money. Like, nobody can get that off.
They would have to cut your hand off.
I have to take my arm off to take that off. It does. If you drop your camera, which I often do if I'm holding multiple cameras and stuff, if I drop it and let it hang from the wrist strap it's like... It's so tight.
I do use a wrist strap, but it's a different wrist strap.
Yes,
it's just
a bit more
generic,
sensible.
So, but I don't use neck strap right now. My camera is actually in my pocket, so the setup is quite small. So I can always put it in my pocket if I need to, and then walk with it. The problem is now it's getting warmer. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know. I might need to get some trousers with the massive pockets or something. The old school ones.
Yeah.
With the side pockets on the legs.
Oh, that's great. I will not be accompanying you. I'm going to pretend I don't know.
Going to be so trendy.
If you walk out with that. But yeah, a few people actually saying the Peak Design wrist strap is the best accessory or a great accessory.
I hate it with passion. I love Peak Design neck straps. I think they're fantastic.
Got a few.
I can't get along with a wrist strap. I do have one. And
you just find it too, because it gets
it just tightens up and then you can't loosen it up, and then it just chokes your hand. And
great if you just never ever want to take your camera off.
The neoprene Optic USA wrist strap is fantastic. Any day I'll take it over Peak Design, but Peak Design neck straps are another level in backpacks. It's the only product I have issue with Peak Design.
There you go. John said that I've lost it now. It was a nice comment, and it's vanished. Anyway, said that he liked our Voigtlander video.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you, John. I really appreciate that. It was a fun video, actually. It was a fun day.
We enjoyed it. Yeah.
It was good. So moral of the story is, have a great weekend.
Get out, take some pictures.
Go out and take some street photography pictures. We hope that these tips have been helpful to you. Sign up to our newsletter if you haven't already.
Buy things from us.
Yeah,
that always helps.
Exactly.
Keeps us in business.
It keeps the shop alive. And submit your street photography pictures over to media@grayswestminster.co.uk. We're going to do the selection. Got a very busy week ahead next week, as you can probably imagine. So stay tuned for
the 8 cameras that Nikon releases. So because that's the figure 8 there. Yeah.
That's what that is. That little Easter egg is for the 8 cameras. We're going to be super duper busy. So bear with us if we don't get back to you as fast as of next week. Photo
London opens up, I think, on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. That's in Somerset House.
Yeah.
Obviously, big art photography show. I think there's a Martin Parr exhibition is there, which I personally looking forward to checking out myself. And then obviously Nikon will be there. And who knows, maybe those 8 cameras that we'll announce, maybe they will be there. You never know. But one of our viewers here actually pointed me out, there's another, somewhere in London, there's a video show thing. Where it's going to be Blackmagic design, there's going to be some other brands in there and stuff like this. And it's all happening in the same week. But if you want everything Nikon, then go to Photo London and Somerset House in London.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good. Have a great weekend all. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much for everything. Bye.